I just had a question about ancestry, and it's been bothering me a while. How many ancestors do you suppose we all have? I mean, really, every human being that's ever been born was born to a mom and a dad.
Right.
Right? I mean, seems logical. Except for, of course, maybe Adam and Eve and Jesus. But, you know, we have 2 parents and 4 grandparents and 8 great-grandparents.
Yeah.
And
websites where you can just trace this stuff all over the place.
And I do a lot of that, by the way.
Getting into the names and the places of birth and stuff, just the numbers alone become incomprehensible.
Well, I think ultimately we're all related, right? Isn't that the thing?
Well, yeah, but I mean, do you understand how big these numbers get? They keep doubling every generation.
Sure, yeah, it's huge.
If you go back 10 generations, you're already at 1,000, roughly. And if you go back 20 generations, you're at 1 million, and then 1 billion. And then at 40 generations, the number is 1 trillion. Well, that's impossible.
Why is that impossible?
Well, think about it. Has there ever been 1 trillion people on the planet?
Well, all at once? Actually, there's more than 1 trillion now.
But there's not an infinite regress. It's not as though humans as a species have existed infinitely. Like we haven't existed through an infinity of time.
Maybe
right?
Not, no, but
okay.
Well, right.
Just making sure.
We only go back so far.
Right.
But every person that's ever existed was born to a mom and a dad. It takes 2 to make 1. And so it seems like there's no way we could have come from just 2 people. We must have come from many, many people, but even...
Well, I think, do you understand like how evolution works? Like, is that even on the radar? I mean...
2 people can have many, many children too, so it's...
Right, yeah.
We're not only...
Numbers. Right.
So if it starts,
but I
starts
agree.
from a single point and branches out, it gets really huge too, as long as it goes out. Right?
Well, it's okay. I mean, I can understand the numbers when it's just 2 and 4 and 8 and 32 and 64, but beyond a few thousand, it's kind of hard to understand that every person on the planet now, I'm just tracing the ancestry back for one person.
Right, but I mean, I guess what I'm saying is you're kind of saying, is this an issue for the Bible? And I'm saying the way that you're looking at it would be an issue for science as well, because they're saying there's common ancestry with all life on the planet. So according to what you're saying, that's impossible too.
It does seem to be both impossible and yet very logical. I guess there's a lot of questions that fall into that category, things that are impossible to understand fully, but yet on paper, it does make sense that the numbers do double every generation.
Well, but not really, because you can have 10 children and they all have the same 2 parents. So you don't have twice as many in the previous generation as this generation. Necessarily.
Every child has 2 parents.
Right, but I think what John is saying, for example, my mother came from a family where they had 14 children from 2 parents.
Right. My brother and I.
So all those people
had the same 2
the same 2 parents.
Okay. But still, there's 4 grandparents and 8 great-grandparents. Right,
but a lot of but those 16 people have a lot of descendants, so it's not. Yeah, they're still big numbers, but it's not doubling every generation you go back. That's the point I'm trying to make.
It's actually branching outward, right? It's getting broader, because if you look at human population growth, right, there's more people now than there was a generation ago, than there was a generation ago, than there was a generation ago. So actually the numbers of people are increasing, right? So we are making more descendants than ancestors.
Well, I'm not sure I can.
We know this because human population can be measured.
It's getting bigger.
And there's like 7 billion people now, and when I was a kid, there was only 3 billion people on the planet. So it's branching, it's getting bigger, not smaller.
The world population is growing. Okay.
Yes.
That's what everybody says.
Yeah, it is.
But
we're making more people. Just like lemmings, right? We can see other species do this, where they start making lots and lots. Like you can have 2 mice that you buy at the store, and oh my gosh, what do you know? You have a breeding pair, and you didn't expect it. You thought they were both female, and before you know it, you have tons of mice, right, from those 2.
Right, but doesn't what I'm saying make a little bit of sense also? Because
not in light of what I know about mice. Right? Do you understand what I'm saying?
Okay.
You can start with those 2 mice, and then you can end up with like your house overrun with all these mice that you've got to get rid of.
Well, the part that makes sense is that, yes, there's been a lot of humans, beings on this planet over the history of this planet. And, fortunately, we're not all alive at the same time because there wouldn't be room for all of them. But people die off and, we're growing as a whole. But, yeah, there's been a lot of human beings on this planet.
So yeah, I mean, if I were
die off, Ian.
Yeah, they do die off.
Sisters die off.
Sure.
But before they died off, they had children.
Sure, they did.
Mm-hmm.
And so, if you pick any moment in time in any country, anybody in history, they have a mom and a dad and 4 grandparents and 8 great-grandparents, and then so on and so on.
But it dovetails back, right? It dovetails back. And we are pretty sure about common ancestry. So it's going to dovetail back at some point. It branches out broadly, and then it keeps branching out broadly. It's not branching out backwards. What you're looking at, if you look at the generation before our generation, what John is trying to explain is there's actually less people. And if you look at the generation before them, there's less people. And there keeps becoming less and less people.
In the future, there may be less people.
No. In the future, there's probably going to be more. Now, there are certain things that could impact that, but I'm saying current trends prevailing, we're going to continue to grow as a population.
Right. Some countries grow real fast, and some are not growing at all. But,
right. Because some have, pulled back on that a little bit. But the point is, just think of it in terms of, like I said, go to the pet store, get yourself a couple breeding pair of mice and see what happens, right? And after all those mice breed and you have like 200 mice, all those mice are going to have parents.
And they all started from 2.
Right.
Not from, 200
Not that I'm trying to defend Adam and Eve here, but I'm just saying that you're going to have the same problem even if you go to an evolutionary model. The way you're looking at it would still be problematic.
Well, it's impossible that there was ever 1 trillion people on the planet.
I'm not aware that anybody's. Yeah, I don't think anybody's made the claim that there's
nobody would think
people.
Nobody would say that.
Yeah, right. But there doesn't have to be, I guess, is the point.
Yeah, I don't.
We're getting more. But there's more people coming out. That it's getting bigger, not smaller.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, like I said, try to think about the mice model.
I agree with you,
Okay.
but I'm just trying to understand it, and but the mathematical part of it says that no matter how many people there ever was, every one of those people had a mom and a dad.
Right, but what John was pointing out is that big groups of those people had the same parents. So a lot of people go back to less people, go back to less people, go back to less people.
Well, it's not going to double, but...
It probably would more than double in some instances. I would imagine, and depending on, like I said, my mother's family was 14, and that was not unusual. She was Italian Catholic, and that's very common when she was younger to have huge Catholic families. That was a normal thing.
Yeah, there's a lot of duplicity in all those numbers, but okay. Well. All I can say is, all right.
Buy yourself a couple guppies and a fish tank, and watch what happens. Yeah, and it'll kind of make a little model for you to understand how that. And then when it gets full, think about how each of them
Right.
has parent guppies, right? So
Perhaps, but I would be asking, where did these two guppies come from? They must have had two parents.
right, but
But
and they probably
Or they had the same parents. You never know.
yeah, they might have.
they might have, yeah, exactly. Okay.
All right.
Well,
Well, thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mo.
thank you.
Enjoy the show.
Thanks. Appreciate it.